And the scaffold's up. It's got to have its netting put on yet. They're going to do that next week, Monday I do believe. They're going to start that one. But it's a long way up. Done really well to get that up in. I think it's taken them 5 days. And you come round this side as well, all the way up there. Okay, boys and girls, we're going to do our first climb up to the top of the tower. I shall take you up with me. Well, we're on the, well, I'd say the first lift. It's the first lift where we're actually doing something. You can see there the old church window. There's not a lot to do on this side, on this level. But there's quite a bit here. This is what we're up against. As you can see here, there's a couple of bricks that have gone. Now these will be going right through. So what we might have to do is cut it out and actually put a slip in there. Rather than try and take the whole thing out and change it. Just bed some slips in the line. Any full bricks, any stretchers, we'll take out and either reverse or replace. And then obviously it's all this that we've got to be patching in. Now apparently, allegedly, this was line pointing. I think it's cement pointing myself. That's failed. Right, onwards and upwards. This is the statue. We're going to have to do a bit of, sorry about that madam, we're going to have to do a bit of cleaning to get the algae off it. I do have a very gentle chemical for doing that, which will just bring the algae off because we don't want to over clean it. And there's a little repair been done there at some stage, as you can see, and that just wants maybe just tucking in with a little bit of lime mortar just to stop it eroding any further. Same on these are going to want doing. No cleaning of the stone though. I mean, these are getting ready for a recutting or something on that degree. Again, we've got areas down there that have gone and need repointing, a few bricks to change. There's bits around that window that are gone. And then what have we got round the corner? Right, well we're safe there, there's nothing to do on that bit, which is great. Okay, let's get up to the next lift. And once again we've got little areas that need touching in. It's on that corner buttress, bits around there. And again, just in the stonework, there's quite a bit of it that's gone, which will need attention. You can just see the bottom of the clock there. We've got to repaint 2 of those. A bit more pointing there, and there's some at the very end. Right, let's have a look round the other side. Not quite sure what there is round here. I think there's more round here than there is round there. Yeah, there's quite a bit there. The bricks aren't actually as bad as I thought they'd be. Again, on that corner buttress there, there's quite a bit of erosion. Bits up there. Again, a few bits around the window. I think we're going to have to change some bricks in there as well. That's quite eroded on there. Again, there you go. More stonework needs pointing. I mean, all this, in all honesty, needs redoing. It's the pointing's gone in all of it. Same here. I mean, that there, it's cracked. Same there. So they'll just fall out. They've just been bodged. A little bit of gardening going on down there, and that's starting to. You can just see cracks starting to appear, and it's starting to delaminate on there. A lot of carbon on it. Possibly a little bit of gypsum's formed on it as well. There's some quite bad areas in places. I mean, ones like this, they're not going to take that much chopping out. I've got a lovely thin plugging chisel to do it as well. None of them grinders. Looks like most of that buttress needs doing. And then there's going to be, on the next lift, quite a bit up there on that side. A couple of bits here that need doing. And a little bit of maintenance on these as well, by the looks of it. They're just starting to go. So they want tidying up. They're all, as you see, they're cracked and gone. Okay, up to the next lift. Ding dong, the big clock. Of course, he's radded at a later date. I'll find the actual date for you. But when the tower was built, these weren't originally put in. As you can see, they're needing a bit of TLC, a bit of a brushing off and cleaning off, a bit of black paint, a bit of gold paint. And I've ordered some special gold paint which is designed for this kind of thing. Not necessarily clocks, but this kind of thing. Now it looks to me, looking at the hands, that's either copper plate or might be brass. Might actually be brass, and I bet originally it was brass with gold leaf on. But, which will have gone many years ago. And we're quite safe because the bells aren't in at the minute. They're out having a reconditioning down at Loughborough. It's round to the other side. I mean, it's the higher levels that have got the majority of work on them. And this is your second clock, which wants a bit of TLC. You look at the great big bolts there holding it on. Big iron bolts. You know how to make things back then, didn't they? You know, this is all I think might be wrought iron. I don't think it's steel. I think it's wrought iron. Steel would have gone by now. It's a good solid piece, and we'll give it the tidy up it needs. But, you notice the brickwork there. You know, has there been something in there at some stage? Maybe it was a slit, and they bricked it up when they did the clock. Right, round here, side number 3. Ah yeah, that's what they'll have bricked up, something like that, a slit. Quite a bit on this side of erosion, quite a bit. Nothing that we can't handle, but the lime that's in there, I mean, is an example of it. Just crushing under my thumb now. That was done, I think it was about 10 years ago. So they've obviously not done it right, have they? And this is why we're here now doing this. Right, up to the next lift. These are the big louvers. Let's put my hand next to one. You can see the size of them, actually quite big. Areas on here as well that need doing. And areas there. Buttress doesn't seem too bad. But quite a bit of erosion on there. Again, more of the big louvers there. Inside the bell tower. Quite a bit on this panel. I'd say a good 90% of this panel's gone. I mean, you can see, if you look closely, you can see the hairline cracks over the top next to the Harris on the brick. They'll just fall out, to be quite honest with you. And around this side, again, some very deep erosion on here. I mean, some of it up there, don't know if the camera picked that up, but some of it up there is actually through. If you look at, again, you know, pulling it out, it's gone. It's well and truly gone. But nothing that we can't sort. There's your louvers again. And you think, you know, they lifted all these up here back in 1890. Just with ropes and pulleys, no big cranes or anything. More bits up there. Right, we'll get up to the next lift now. We're getting higher and higher and higher. The van looks like a toy down there now. Right, one more lift to go after this. Again, lots of touching up to do on the stonework. Not too much on the brickwork on this section. They don't look too bad. A little bit there maybe. Again, just a few bits on the stone there to do. I might have to lift the netting off to do it though. I mean, you've got just there, they're going through, so they need doing. Masonry course, not too bad. Yeah. You know, they've not even, it's not actually been chased out properly, that, you can tell. Just flicked a bit off it. There's other foliage taken out as well. A little bit on the top of this corner buttress wants tiny bit of pointing on it. Again, bits on the stonework need pointed up. A couple of bits on the brickwork, and that's about it for there. Right, up to the next lift. Right, we're now up at the top. Again, it's just a few bits there on this this plinth. Also the plinth below, just there. It's a couple of bits. The cobbling isn't too bad. A couple of cracks. Chase them out and just put a bit of stuff in them. It's these that concern me more than anything, because obviously you're going to get water ingression there. Same there. And that looks like it'll all have to be done, that little panel there. If you look, it's riddled with cracks, and again you've got some cracks in there. Look how that's eroded. That's all your layers of your sediment or your sand when it was compacted. But that eventually will have to be addressed because it is eroding away. These are, step back so you can see this. They're the little turrets on the top. We haven't got anything to do on there as far as I'm aware, but I can see that the joints on some of them well, they're needing attention, so it might be a bit of laddering work for that. And apparently that's not a tree growing out of it, as I thought. It's placed there for some religious reason. And that's gone there. That's probably had a flaw in it, and frost has had it away at some stage. And this is why I say it's important to stop the water ingression. You know, you end up with stuff like that. So again, the cobbling, there's quite a few cracks in it, but you've got a crack running right through that. You can see it, which shows signs of movement. But I do know that this bell tower is, or has been, moving at some stage, because we did some works near a few years ago, touching up where it had shifted. That brick there's a bit misplaced, it's strange. On there, just losing its corner. We'll just take that off and it'll fall out and hit somebody. So I have to change that one there. Again, this plinth, the whole of this plinth needs doing. It's all, again, eroded away. And needs doing again. I've got some lovely thin trowels to get these joints. Thin as a matchstick. And again on this, what do we call it, a column, as you can see, there's bits that need pointing on that, and that's the side we're not touching. And for all of you that follow us on Facebook, which I know you do, here's a view of our lovely Isle coast from the top of the bell tower on St Anne's Road. Very good view. Obviously you can see the coastline, and you can see St Anne's Square there with the crescent running up, probably centre of the shot there. It's a lovely day up here. Quite overcast, but it's very warm, very muggy. Yeah, really, really good. Looks very green, doesn't it, St Anne's? And just a stone throw away, you can see there the moss, as we call it, the fields. I think that clump of trees over there somewhere will be the old Lytham Hall that we do work on. Right, I better crack on. I've brought you up to do the inspection, so you've had a guided tour, so I better do a bit more inspecting now, and we'll see you tomorrow when we actually start work. And in the words of the master of church steeples and stuff, didn't it? You like that? Well, it's Wednesday morning, and we're on the parish church project. And what we're doing is hand cutting the joints. No grinder. We don't want grinders on here. It's a grade 2 listed structure, so we don't use grinders on it. We just do the old hand cut. We've got some nice thin chisels to get the thin joints, etc. A couple of little picks and so on. Right, I'll just show you the section that I have completed this morning. Now this is the section that I've just done. I have done more than this morning. However, you can see how deep we are going. Now we're tending to go in about 30 mil, which is a lot, I know, but it's a highly exposed area, this. And a lot of the perps are going right the way through. And I think what's happened in the past with this church is Many years ago it's been repointed with sand and cement mortar, which is basically that, and it's rock hard. And then a couple of years back, 10 years or so ago, somebody's come in and patch pointed it, and they've done it with a lime, which is that, and it's really soft. It's just powdery as anything. Okay, so that's what we're doing today. We're doing a lot of prepping today. I've set the hose up. I've got probably about 1,000 foot of hose pipe out at the minute. Whether any water will come out at the end of it when I turn it on, I don't know. Depends on the pressure, doesn't it? Okay, let's crack on. Well, we found a bit here. It is actually quite loose. You can see it moving there. And it's black mortar. The rest of it is white. So that says to me that at some stage this section here has been taken out for whatever reason, probably a repair, and they've used a black mortar, and it's a black lime mortar. So there's a fair old age, the repair. Just a little bit of interesting stuff. You find all sorts of things when you're doing these old buildings where they've been repaired and things over time. Well, I've removed that brick. It was actually quite loose. There's a couple of them there. And there's your mortar. That's the black mortar that they've used to repair it. And there's some of the original mortar, which has come off the internal, which I'll show you now. Because the internal, as you can see in there, it actually changes direction. It goes off that way, almost like it's forming a shape inside. Very interesting. Now if you look very carefully here, you can see what's left of what would have been gold leaf. So these clock hands originally were coated with gold leaf. It'd be lovely to do it with that again, but I don't think that's in the budget, unfortunately. So it'll get a gold paint. But they're not very robust, very thin. But it's funny how you see something, you take it for granted for pretty much all your life, and you don't realise what they are really like until you get close up to them. What I'm talking about is the fact that I've probably been looking at this clock for decades and never really taken a great deal of notice of it, apart from figuring out what time it is. But I don't think it's working at the minute, so you can't even do that now. But we'll get it looking lovely. Well, it's quite possible that we'll be doing these bits in here as well, jointing them up. I have to set down this bird netting to get to it, because they're in a bit of a state. I mean, that there is virtually gone, pointing wise. Right, let's crack on. Well, that's pretty much it for Wednesday. More of a setting up day today than anything else. Done a bit of cutting out, well, quite a lot of cutting out actually. Got my son Chris with us. He's been busy cutting out. We're going to start the pointing tomorrow, being Thursday. I have done a little bit. I've done the top of the stone section, just a couple of thin joints. So we shall see you tomorrow. Thursday morning, and we're starting at the top, working our way down with the old lime mortar pointing. Anybody that's not watched the channel before, this is what we do. We do historical masonry, that would be brick or stone, conservation, repair and restoration. And if you are new to the channel, welcome, and don't forget to subscribe. That's if you're enjoying it. Obviously if you're not, you've turned us off. Okay, so as you've noted from the rest of this video, we are doing some conservation work on a bell tower, church bell tower, built in 1873. It's a grade 2 listed structure, so obviously what we're doing is like for like, but this is what we specialise in. Right, I'm going to crack on, do some work and let you enjoy the video. That's the first bit in. Got to let that set in now and attack it with the churning brush. Going to finish that little bit there and then pop some cherishing sheets on. We're still in the shade here, so it's not too bad. You see in there, this here is the original lime bedding, and the little white bits are the unslaked lime. Well, it's probably slaked now, but it will have been unslaked kibble when it was mixed.
Oh, you made your own.
Hey?
Made your own.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Come on, Jeffrey, tell us a bit about it.
Well, this is knocking it back with a churning brush. The reason we're doing it is to compact the mortar. You might get away with it drying with the cherishing sheets, but it'll still be weak and it'll still crack in places. So what you've got to do is really knock it back, so you know that it's right to the back of them joints and well compressed. And I try not to get too far ahead of myself when doing this, because you can imagine you've got 5 or 6 metres of it all ready for knocking back with a churning brush. It takes quite a bit of effort. Strike it up with the trowel after doing this, if you so desire. Some people prefer to leave it open, they say it's better for the breathability, and others say that's utter nonsense. But you can make your own minds upon that one. Tough enough to take the churning brush without actually damaging it. cherishing sheets back on, and we'll give it a little drink in a minute or two. Keep it nice and moist. And we'll do it several times throughout the day. And then this evening, when it cools down a bit, it will not be drying out as quick. Plus tomorrow is forecast to rain, so that'll keep it nice and damp as well. And we'll leave the cherishing sheets on for about a week before removing them, which gives it enough time to carbonate, which is, in layman's terms, drying out. And there you go, that's that. And of course here we have knowledgeable Chris Dust. He's doing a bit of the old line pointing there today, so it's not all down to me, which is good. You can see he's got the technique there, pushing it right to the back. No short measures on this job. He's been for a haircut at lunchtime, he's not happy. Big chunks missing out.
And I tipped him.
And they give him a tip, yeah, which is never good. Never good.
I'm getting red light syndrome. As soon as the camera goes on, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, well. So we're nearly done on this particular section of the bell tower. You can see that cherishing sheets are on and dampened. That's had the churning brush on it, as you saw earlier. I've just completed that bit down there, so I'll give it an hour or so and I'll whack that with the churning brush, and then the cherishing sheets will go on here for a week. And we'll move round the corner then and start doing the bits around there. It's not too much now on this particular lift, which is good. It's the lift below where there's a lot to do. Okay, catch you in a bit. And here we have knowledgeable Chris removing paint from the clock. We're just doing a bit on the clock while we're waiting for the pointing we've done to set in, so we can do it with the churning brush. It's a bit late to put any more on now, so we're having a play. But you can see where he takes the paint off, you can actually see some of the remaining gold leaf, which is the original coating that was on it. Must look quite spectacular in its day. But it's wrought iron, and it's held on the wall with 3 huge bolts. And it runs through into the bell tower itself, and is attached to the clock mechanism. But that's been disconnected at the moment because they had to disconnect all the workings to be able to get the bells lowered down to send them off for refurbishment. And I believe that they're going to try and put it back together and get it working again once it's all done. But we're not doing that because we don't do clocks. Right, well that's the end of Thursday. We've got quite a bit of pointing done up there today, which is good. A bit more prepping done. We've had a look at the clock, or the clocks. We're going to do it with the needle gun on the compressor. We've pulled some hoses up there, ready for doing that. Right, we shall see you on Friday. And it's 11:45 on a Friday. It isn't really, it's 9 o'clock. The clock's not working. Anyway, what are we doing today? Well, at some point today it's forecast heavy rain. So, heavy rain, line pointing, bell tower isn't going to work. So So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start stripping the paint off the clogs using the nail gun, which is fed with compressed air, so there's no danger of electric shock. You might be able to hear below, or it's just switched off, the compressor, which is several feet below me. So I've got some very long compressor hoses up here. Okay, so we're going to crack on now with the line pointing, which means climbing up another 5 lifts, I think. So we'll see you up. And of course, one of your most important parts is your cherishing, which is putting the sheeting on, the hessian sheeting, and keeping it extremely damp. Now we give it a good saturation last night before we went, and I'll just give it another one now, and I shall do the same thing a few times throughout today. Saturday tomorrow, so I'll have to come in and give it a wet up again, and I may have to come in on Sunday. However, it is forecast rain, and if it rains I can get away with that. Right, onwards and upwards. Also, very important, is making sure that the brickwork that you're going to point is absolutely saturated. Now what you really want to be doing is plenty of water on it, quite a while, so that the existing lime mortar bedding and the brick actually suck the water in and become saturated. Then you want to leave it a little bit so the shine comes off the brick, and then you can start pointing it. But you may have to dampen it up as you go, because obviously it is going to start drying out on you. So just a quick light sprinkle of water over the top just helps to stop your mortar prematurely drying out. A handy little tip. And that's the appearance you're looking for now. The water's pulled into the brick and into the lime bedding. There's no shine on the brick to speak of now, which is what you want, because if it's still sort of saturated on the face of the brick or shiny, chances are you're going to end up with mortar all over your bricks, which looks terrible really. Now another handy little tip is, when you've wet your planks and you have to sit on them, it's not very comfortable. You get slidey cheeks, it's not very nice. So what you do, get some of your dry hessian sheeting and lay it on the planks. This way, not only do you get a comfortable seat, but you keep dry bootargs. Just in there, you can see just on the edge there, like a purpley colour. And what that is, that's a piece of slate that the masons have put in across there when they've bedded the stone on many years ago. And what that's done, it stopped the stone sinking down into the soft mortar while the mortar sets. So that little piece of slate has been in there since 1890, and it's still doing its job fine. However, next to it, that has gone in very deep. I mean, it's gone in, you can see that deep, which is probably about the width of the brick, about 4 inch, something like that. There you go, a little bit more historical information, people. Now that bit there is in and awaiting the churning brush. Now I had filmed putting that in there, or I thought I'd filmed, but I hadn't switched the camera on. So I've just spent the last 30 minutes or so talking to myself, 80 foot up in the air on a scaffolding. Fortunately, there's nobody around to see this, so I'll film something else for you. Anyway, it's that time of day, brew time, so I'm going to climb down and get a cup of tea, because I need to go down and get some more mortar because I've run out. So we'll catch you shortly. While we're sat in the van having a cup of tea, we're just sort of like surrounded by tombstones, and I've read a couple of them, as you do, and you notice local names of families that are still around. And there was one that stood out. It's a very posh monument, you can just see there in the distance. It's made out of granite, and it looks like it's a church steeple. You see the one there in the middle of the shot? Now that's a Harold Porritt. Now Porritt locally was a developer, shall we say, and he built some of the big buildings in St Anne's which are now under conservation because of their splendour. Now Porritt, it says there that he died at the age of 55 and was interned in 1910. He's been there a bit, so I don't think there's going to be a lot left down there. However, I was wondering, is Harold Porritt the same chap who built the houses? This is something I need to look into. Right, finish your cup of tea, because we're going to go back. You can see how thick the walls are there. Absolutely immense. Interesting. Right, let's run you through the pointing procedure. First step, get the water moving. Now this is doing two things. It's obviously wettening up the masonry. And what it's also doing is it's removing all the little bits of dust and muck that are left in the joints. It's very important that you get all of those out as well, because at the end of the day you want the stuff to stick inside them and not just be rattling around in there for the next few years. Right, a good saturation is very, very important. Don't be shy of putting the water on it. Now, as you can see, there's a shine on the bricks. So what we do, we let that dry in a bit, and then once it's dried in a bit, we can start the pointing process. And when I say dry in, I don't mean until it's, you know, an hour later and it's actually dried out. I mean a couple of minutes, just until the shine's gone off the face of the brick. Because if you try and go on it now when the brick's shiny with water like that, chances are you're going to smear some of it on the bricks, which never looks very nice. Right, so the next step then, obviously, is your mortar. Now, as you know, we're using this pre-mixed lime mortar, as we mentioned earlier in the video. That's the the stuff we're using, CLM 35, which is a coarse mix, which is what you want for repointing. You don't want it fine. If it's fine, you probably end up with it cracking, which you can control, but it's not really the best to use. I mean, I've done it myself in the past with a fine sand when the need has arisen through specification of architects, etc. But I don't think it's the best, because it does tend to crack, and it can fail on you quite easily. Also, I find. Right, so 3 different sizes of trowel. Well, say 3. There's probably half a dozen there, but your main 3 sizes of trowel. Because as you can see, your perps are all different sizes, and your perps being your perpendicular joint. Okay, so first of all, come to trowel. You've got to pick the size of trowel you need for the joint you're going to do. And you get a nice piece on your trowel. And with it being a lime mortar, it'll stick to it like that and stay there. Cement mortar wouldn't do that, that'll have fallen off then. I mean, don't get me wrong, this will fall off, you know, but more likely to stick to your trowel than cement mortar. Now the important part is getting it right to the back of the joint. I mean, I've said this in the past, but it is very important. You also want it flush to the face of the brick. You don't want it set back. Again, nice. Hold on, push it in. So these joints, some of these perps are right through to the back of the brick. And you don't want to just have a bit on the front here, hollow behind. It has to go right to the back of that brick. I mean, essentially rebedding it. Like that. Give her a little tickle there, trim it up a bit more on. Now at this stage, you don't want to be too fussy with it, because bear in mind it's going to get hit with a whacking great big churning brush. So, you know, trying to get it perfect at this stage is pointless. It's wasting your time. Obviously you don't want it so it's all over the bricks or anything, but you know, you don't want to try and get it dead flat and smooth, because it's not going to be flat and smooth when you're done with it, basically. Right, now then, this is smaller perp here. So what we do, we get a smaller trowel. And the reason for that is because the smaller trowel, as you can see, will go inside that joint, you know, push that mortar to the back. But with a larger trowel, it won't do that. Now, you can see there, the trowel is slightly thinner than the joint. But that's fine, that's what you want. So then you get your next size up, a little bit on it, put it in there, just to bring it flush with the face of the brick. You don't really want to be going over the harris of the brick, the edge of the bricks. I mean, it's not easy to do on these because they're all, you know, like chips and misshaped and everything, but you know, ideally you want to be keeping it within the harris and flush to the face. Again, nice big blob into there. Oh, nice big blob into there. Hold it back. There we go. You know, if you've never done this before and you fancy doing your garden wall or something, well, that's good. You know, I encourage that, but you need to get a bit of practice in. So if you're going to do something at home, you're better off doing it to start with on something that can't really be seen that much. And if you do make a bugger of it, you can hide it with a bush or something, like bottom of a garden wall or something. Because over time, you know, with practice you will get better. And again, change trowel size, smaller perp, and then it goes. Because that perp there is virtually the same size as that trowel, we don't need to go over it again. Same with the one below it. There. And then again, changing trowel over something a bit bigger. When you think when this building was erected in 1890, the chaps that put it on were craftsmen. You'd have had your stonemasons, which are in your banker masons doing the stonework, cutting the stonework. You'd have had the fitters putting it up. You had your brick masons laying the bricks, etc. But they were all craftsmen. Not like today, where it's somebody who does everything and comes under the label of builder. It was a bit different back then. You were a brick mason or a stone mason or, you know, plasterer or whatever it was. That was your particular trade, and we seem to be losing that these days. And you know, you're to be expected to be able to do a bit of everything, to be classed as well, a builder. Of course, house building today is standard-wise is terrible. You know, I don't think it's so much down to the lads doing it. It's down to the developers who want to pay as little as they can to maximise their profits, which is fine. You know, you're a business and you want to make profit, but standards are dropping with the greed of the developer. You can trim all this up after, you know, before you hit it with the churning brush though, because if you leave a little flex on when you do it with the churning brush, the chances are it's going to push it into the little chips in the harris of the brick and things, and it looks a bit untidy. So I like to just, once it's dried in a bit, just tidy it up, give it a bit of a tickle, and make it look nice. Again, pushing it well back. I mean, the mortar's fairly stiff, you know, it's not runny, you don't want it runny. Right, so we're going to have to change trowels there, because that one has got a little bit there that's thinner than the rest. So we can swap trowels back again now. It's just there's a thin bit. Now, before the Victorians mechanised bricks were all handmade, of course, and they didn't really point it as such when they built them. The mortar had come out and they just kind of cut it off. They wouldn't really point it. And it wasn't until the Victorians mechanised the making of bricks, or bricks were produced perfect in shape, or as near as they'll make perfect in shape, in the millions, that pointing became part of it. You know, you go back to your Tudors, etc., and you know, it was all locally produced handmade clay brick, and obviously bedded in with lime, but then mortar just cut off rather than pointed, because the bricks were so irregular in shape that it's probably virtually impossible to point them anyway. I mean, I've done some pointing on old bricks, old handmade bricks, and it is a nightmare to try and get it looking nice. Because they're all over the place. Thick joints, thin joints. They're terrible. Some of them are like humpback bridges. So for any of you that don't know anything about this kind of industry, and you're thinking, well, why aren't you just doing it with sand and cement? Well, the reason is, there's a few reasons really. Main reason is it's too hard. Cement, I think it's about 48, 46 newtons, something like that, which is actually really hard. It's water repelling, and you might say, well, that's good, it's soft damp, but it's not good. Lime isn't. Lime's soft, but not soft that you can scrape it out with your finger when it's set. It is quite hard, to be quite honest with you, but it's not as hard as cement, nowhere near as hard as cement, which is what you want, because rule of thumb is that your mortar needs to be softer than your bricks, because your mortar is sacrificial. It's designed to erode away, because you can replace the mortar like we're doing here, but changing the bricks is costly, some cases impossible. So you know, you need your mortar softener and your brick, and you also need that what layman's terms is breathability. It's vapor permeable, which basically means that you get the capillary action of the water entering and leaving masonry, because it'll rain, that sucks the water in, that sucks it out of the brick, and it gets rid of it. However, put cement on top of that, or cement based mortar, brick sucks in, lime sucks in, lime can't get rid of, so brick sucks back, so eventually the bricks become saturated, and then they start losing their faces and doing what we call spalling, which is basically rotting away. And you'll see it on buildings sometimes where a lot of the brick faces have gone and it's got a right rich cement mortar pointing in it, and that's half of the trouble that cement mortar can cause. Very peaceful up here. I mean, I'm not a religious man, but there's something nice about working on a church. I don't quite know what it is, but it's a nice, satisfying feeling, and I think it's possibly because it's like the church is part of a community, and you know. Oh, hello, sirens. Somebody in trouble. And again, we're down to a thin joint there, so we need the thinner trowel. Just pop in there, like that. I mean, you see a lot of chaps with a repointing a Edwardian or Victorian property, and it'll be built in what's commonly known as Accrington brick, or engineering brick as they actually are, with really thin joints. And what they do, they get the older angle grinder out with a thick disc in it, and they cut them joints out and make them wider because it's easier to point, and they'll chop them. I've seen people chop them back to about 15 mil, and it just looks ridiculous. And really all it takes is a thin bladed disc if you're going to grind it out, and a thin trowel, and it still has its lovely thin joint appearance on the building as it was designed to be. Anyway, there you go. You're getting the general gist of it there now, aren't you? So we'll cut it off there because we don't want to bore you too much with this particular video. So we'll leave you there, and we'll catch you in a bit when we're doing something else. Friday afternoon, and we're just going to do the top of this buttress here, a little bit of a patch down there, maybe a little bit of a patch up there. But it's getting a bit late, so I don't want to be doing too much because obviously I've got to let it set in so I can whack it with that churning brush. Anyway, back onto the subject of clocks. So, 2 iron clocks. Now apparently the clocks were fitted in 1893, so that's 3 years after the tower was completed, and the company that fitted them were called Potts. So Potts the clocks, easy to remember. And the clocks themselves were supposed to have chimes, ding dong, but they didn't have the chimes fitted. Apparently they were charged £300 for the clocks. Now these clocks were originally going to be the town clocks, but for whatever reason that never happened. So they ended up in the church's bell tower, or belfry, as its technical term is. And the chimes never got put in. So I think basically the church got ripped off. But the company that made the clocks are still going. And I'm sure they wouldn't do something like that today. They'd be more than happy to fit the chimes if they were fitting the clocks today from new. So it's no discredit to the company there. Clocks have done very well. They've lasted since 1893 and they're still in there. They're not running at the moment though. They have been disconnected because the mechanism for them runs across the trapdoor where they lower down the bells. The bells have been lowered down to, as I've said, go away to be refurbished. And that's about it for the story of the bells. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically strip them back to the cast iron. The black areas, I'm going to use a very high quality black metal paint. And I'm going to look in to gold leaf cost wise, because if it works out about the same price as the paint, we might just go with gold leaf, because the paint that we're going to use is quite expensive because it's a special paint, because it would look absolutely wonderful done again in gold leaf. And as it's my hometown, my place of birth, and where I got christened, it costs an extra 20-30 quid or something to do it in gold leaf. I may just do it for the town. Right, so we're back on pointing now. I've gone over the bits we did this morning with the cherishing brush. I didn't show you that again because we had footage of that yesterday, so you know how that's done. I've done an area at the top of the corner buttress on the opposite side to where we are now, and some bits around it stone, and a couple of patches above. I'm just waiting for that to set in, and then I can whack that with the cherishing brush. And once we've done that and this with cherishing brushes and put the cherishing sheet on here and wet everything up for the final time today, that'll probably be it for Friday. Now I am going to come in tomorrow. My intentions are to come in and wet up the cherishing. I think I mentioned this earlier. If it's raining, I probably won't. And if it's just overcast, which I think it might be, so it's forecast rain today, and it's not done. You have a little bit of it, it was spitting a bit, but that's it. So what I might do, if it's not raining, is come in and do some work on the clocks. Start getting some of the paint off them, and it just moves the job on a little bit, and it means that I'm not having to come and check everything on Sunday as well. So I think what we'll do now is we shall leave it there for this week. We've got a lot of footage of what we're doing, a few exciting bits and a few boring bits, I would imagine. Well, thanks for your patience with us. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found some bits informative. If you've subscribed, thank you very much. We do like subscribers, you know that. And let's have lots of thumbs up this week. Plenty of thumbs up for us. Because that gets us moved up a bit on the old logarithm ladder, apparently. So, don't forget to subscribe, and we shall see you next week for messing about on an old church.